Hi, and welcome to episode 127 of the Heartland Knits podcast. My name is Vicki, but you can find me as Heartland Knits on Ravelry and Instagram. And today is Sunday, November 29th, 2015. Hopefully, I'm a little more awake this week than I was last week. I almost didn't post that episode because I just felt really scattered. I hadn't slept much the night before, so hopefully this one will be better. I have a couple new things to show you. I have new yarn to show you and some spinning, and I have a finished project that I started and finished all last week. Actually, I finished it all in one day. So let me start out with what else was on my needles. One project I didn't even bring it over here to show you. I have been having the last couple days, I've been having some more kind of wrist issues. I have been knitting the hand-to-hand cardigan by Elizabeth Zimmerman out of Bartlett Yarns in the color Lake Blue. I've been knitting that for a few weeks now. A couple of weeks ago, I pushed on it really hard and ended up kind of my wrist was giving me a little pain, some little problems. And so I kind of scaled back and I did just kind of one skein a week, kind of spacing it out, doing 5 ridges a day. And that worked really well the week before last. And so that's what I was going to do again last week. And I did my 5 ridges every day. And then Wednesday night, I was on a VKN and I brought that project over to work on because it's just garter stitch at this stage. So I thought I could just sit and, get some, distance on this while I'm just talking to friends. And that extra over 5 ridges in that one day just did a number on my wrist. Thursday, I could barely hold a glass of water, gripping it because it just felt, it hurt, felt weak. So after that, I have sort of not knit or done kind of almost any kind of fibery activities where I have to use my hands because I just want to let it rest. And it is better now. I can, hold things and touch things without pain. I stopped at the store on the way home but just made sure I didn't carry anything heavy in that hand. And I think that's probably what I will do for the next few days is just try to get it back in shape. So I'm not sure what will be happening with that sweater. I am down to kind of the waist now. So if I had kind of kept that same progress for another couple of weeks, it would probably be done, fairly soon. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna, just see. It's causes me problems because that yarn is just really inelastic and it's on kind of big needles. So I'm not sure. That one is just kind of sitting over there. I'm not even putting it by me. So the other thing that I worked on through the week that I kind of showed you in progress last week was the Aster design by Herbert Niebling. I am knitting, that was a doily design of his that I am knitting in wool as a shawl. And I have it on a circular now, so hopefully I can show you a little bit better what it looks like. It's called Aster because it has kind of long elongated sort of petal. It has like a flower sort of motif. So here is, it kind of goes, it has long petals up at the top and then some kind of lacy edges, and then it has these kind of petals at the bottom. So I am working this out of Tosh lace weight in the tart color, and I started at the top using size 3 needles, and then when I got to kind of this kind of bigger leaf like petal pattern, I switched it up to a size 4 needle, so that's 3.25 and 3.5 millimeter. So I told you I was going to kind of work through the end of the chart and then see where I was yarn wise, and then either do a sideways edging or kind of continue the pattern out. And so this is the amount of yarn that I have left, and I have gotten to the bottom of the chart. So I have this much yarn left, and it didn't look like that much, but then when I weighed it, it weighed 38 grams, which is really pretty much, right? So because I was having this issue with my wrist, and because I would sort of like to have this shawl kind of for Christmas time with this dark red color, I think it would be really fun to wear. I decided, well, by the time I got to this point, I had decided I didn't want to put a sideways edging on it because I think it would take away from this sort of flower petal kind of look to it. So I could just continue on. It's got this sort of, like if you look up in this little triangle here, this kind of mesh. I could just continue kind of that mesh at the bottom of the petals and then just continue that out. But 38 grams is quite a lot to get through. The rows are really long. And the last couple rows that I did, like on Thursday and Friday, I could get like a quarter of a row done, and then my wrist would hurt and I'd put it down. So I didn't know, I mean, there would be quite a few if I wanted to use up all the yarn. And if this was hand spun, I probably would push through and do that because I like to use all the hand spun. But with this red color, I sort of in the back of my mind have an idea what to do with the leftover of this. So what I decided to do is to just end it at the end of this chart. So it's on this needle, but it's starting to get cast off. And as many of the Niebling doilies are done, he does like a crochet kind of chain, and then you catch some stitches way of working off the edges, because it gives it a nice like stretch. You don't have to worry about kind of the bind off being too tight. And so that's what I'm doing. So on a good day, crochet hurts my wrists. My wrist is already hurting and I'm crocheting off this edge, which is why I'm just doing kind of one of these sort of flower sections at a time. Then I'll put it down. So it might be a while before, I mean, it will probably take me all week to get this kind of off the needle. If I decide, get it kind of blocked out and think, oh, I wish it was bigger, I figured I could always take that crochet off and put it back on the needles and then continue on and do that sort of mesh if I wanted to. But I think it's going to be, I mean, it looks, small, just all crunched up, but when you pull it down, it's a fairly sizable piece. So that's what I decided to do with this. And this pattern, this is Aster. It is from the Niebling folio called Grosse und Kleine Decken. And yeah, so that's where that project sits. So off the needles, I started something and finished it all last week. Actually, I started it after dinner last Sunday night and finished it before I went to bed. So it's a pretty fast knit. And what that is I made this hat. And this is the hat that you can win the pattern for in the Ravelry group, which is Friends of Heartland Knits. This is the Color Tracks hat by Melissa Transtrom. And I just decided wanted to do a hat for a specific reason, and thought, well, I might as well do it. The yarn that I used was some leftover Sun Valley Fibers yarns. I just had a little bit. If you remember last year, I knit a couple of um, hats for Halos of Hope before I went to the January thaw. And so I had little bits left from those hats. Not enough to do any complete one, but I thought this would be a really good sort of use for it. So you can see it looks like color work, but you're not stranding the yarn at all. You're using one color at a time. And I'm not sure of what these two colors were. I did make one change to the pattern. As it's written, it's got a hem on it, and she's written it up exactly like I would do a hem if I normally. I would do one just like she is written. But because I was not sure I would have enough of like these two colors, and then I have a little bit of a third color, and I thought I would rather try to get through the whole like outside of the hat with these same two colors. And then if I needed, if I had run out and I needed that third color, I, would have done a hem in that third color. So I did this one a little bit different. I did the kind of Meg Swanson way, like she does some of her sweaters, and just does a long tail cast on. And then at the end goes back and picks up all the purl ridges right inside of there. The kind of overcast stitch, it looks like the turning ridge that you would normally have for a hem, and then kind of knit the hem up, then you have to sew it down. So I thought that's what I was going to do, but then when I got it finished, I decided I really liked the little look of the little rolled brim, so I'm just leaving it like that. But anyway, I knit this hat. I'm going to send it down to Silly Fru. She does the Sassy Pants Knitter podcast, and she is doing her Hats for Grammy drive again this year. And I love the thought of her kind of keeping her grandmother's, spirit alive, still kind of making hats and donating them in her name. And so I wanted to contribute to that. So I am going to send this down there, and but I wanted to show it to all of you first. So there's a thread in the Ravelry group that you can enter it once a day, and it's kind of a gratitude, thankfulness, kind of post something that you're thankful for that day, whatever. It could be, I said, kind of be specific. So, say, I'm really thankful for the perfect Christmas tree I found today, or, whatever. I saw a robin even though it's 30 degrees today or whatever. So whatever. So you can go over and you can win this pattern. It's, like I said, it was a nice kind of fun pattern to knit. It's basically just a few lines, and then you kind of alternate and repeat them. So it's a lot of fun to do. You can do a lot of this was just with little scraps. So you can, if you have different colors, she has pictures where she used kind of mini skeins with different colors, so you can kind of do that. So, and it's a really fast knit. Like I knit it in an evening. So if you have sort of gift knitting to do, it comes together really quickly. I think I used, it was last week, and I'm not sure I remember what needle sizes I used. I think I used 6s? I can't even remember. But anyway, it went together really quickly. So something that I started and finished in the same week. And then I have a little spinning to show you. If you remember, the last time I talked about spinning, I had just finished the single that I had taken about 6 weeks to spin. It was a really, really soft luxury yarn. It was camel, merino, and silk. So I'm in the midst of plying that with just a silk thread. It took took a long time to spin the single, and it's taken quite a while to spin or to ply the yarn up. Plying is not my favorite thing. I have it over on my big Saxony wheel, so I can't really show it to you, but I'm thinking I'm going to really, really like the finished yarn, and hopefully I will have enough to do a great big kind of Estonian lace shawl. That's my thinking right now. So I have that on, the big wheel, but I wanted to keep kind of my habit of spinning kind of an hour every night, and I can't really use that wheel in the evening because it's really dark in that corner, and that yarn is so fine I can't really see what I'm doing. So I started a new project on my Ashford Joy, and it is a fiber that I got a couple of years ago. A couple weeks ago I showed you the finished shawl it was fiber that was dyed by a friend of mine. It was like kind of a gradient, kind of champagne to wine color. Well, at the time she gave me that braid of fiber, she also gave me a second braid that I was not sure kind of what to do with. Because it was 6 ounces, I didn't want to spin just my kind of normal lace weight. I wasn't really sure kind of what to do, so I just let it sit. And so it's kind of this color. It's kind of a light celadon green, and then it has kind of darker, bits of green, and there's like some like tealy kind of colors in there. It's really pretty. It's BFL and silk. It's super soft. And so I decided how I wanted to spin that. Because when I think of BFL, I think of cables. When I think of cables, I think of sort of a really round yarn. And so I decided to make a 3-ply because, I had more than just a 4-ounce braid. So I have 2 bobbins spun. So I'll just show you this one. So this is how it's spun up. I didn't measure the wraps per inch on this, but my goal was to make kind of a worsted to Aran weight single, or worsted to Aran weight 3-ply. It was really nice to spin, and so I finished spinning the last little bit of it up last night, and that even like hurt my wrist a little bit. So I have kind of one batch left. I just kind of broke the braid, the roving, into like 3 big chunks equal size. So hopefully they will come out pretty even. And I'm hoping to have enough yarn to do this pattern that I found again when I was kind of moving all the books and patterns into the other room. It was something I bought years and years and years ago by Janet Szabo. It's this really it's a round cushion that has kind of intricate Celtic cables on it. It looks really pretty, and I think it would be really pretty in this kind of pale green. If I don't have enough yardage, then hopefully I will have enough to do mittens. I thought would be really pretty in this. A hat would be really pretty too. I don't know. But anyway, I was happy that I finally figured out kind of what to do with it. And then for show and tell, before I get to my new purchases, I wanted to show you and tell you about something that a friend of mine knit. I saw it on her Instagram the other day and said, can I show a picture of that on the podcast? Because it's so beautiful. They're so beautiful. So way back kind of last summer when I started the mitten along, and the mitten along, I have left the thread open. So if you are knitting mittens for Christmas or just for winter or whatever, or you come across like a pretty new pattern or something, feel free to slide it in that thread on the Ravelry group, because mittens are my favorite thing to knit. But back when that first started last May or June or somewhere in there, my friend Angela sort of posted about this advent calendar mitten. Like there was a designer who was doing one mitten a week. There were like little 3-inch size kind of Norwegian stranded patterns, just really kind of intricate. It's got a small gauge. It's the project that I was thinking about working on, like doing one every day in December. And anyway, my friend Anne Marie started it last summer, and she posted this picture of all her little mittens. She's done all 24. It's so pretty. They are so beautiful. So hats off to you, Anne Marie. You finished it, and it just looks beautiful. I would love it. Made me really want to do that, but I know with how my wrist is feeling, that would not be the best thing to be doing it, even though it's on kind of little needles. I know it would be a lot of knitting to get all of those done, like one a day. So anyway, I wanted to show you that. And then I have some new yarns. And the first one kind of has a little story. I was going through the groups that I belong to on Ravelry. I don't do that really very often at all. And even if I sort of look through them and read a couple posts on them, I never like actually write anything on them. I'm really bad. Even in my own group, I'm bad at that. So kind of early October, I was looking through them, and I belong to the Lollipop Yarn group because I love her stripy yarn. And I saw a thread called Downton Abbey, and it only had like maybe 4 or 5 posts on it. And so I clicked it, and it was, Joan said, I'm thinking about dyeing, some final batch of the Downton Abbey color. What if I do that? What base should I do it on? And because I love her traditional base so much, it's the perfect yarn, and I don't ever want her to discontinue it. I posted and said, traditional, please, because I want her to know that there are those of us out there that really, really love it. And then, I don't know when, she posted kind of back after a bunch of people had kind of voted and said, I wanted to let you know that there's, whatever you voted for, I have a skein in the vault for you, the yarn vault. So I was pretty excited about that. And so last week she notified people and said, had put pre-orders up on her Etsy shop. And so I have a skein of the Downton Abbey color. So she always names them. So this is 6 rows upstairs, 6 rows downstairs, 6 rows masterpiece, 6 rows Crawley, 6 rows Grantham. Okay, so this is really, really pretty. So I've seen this, she's had it up at least last year, maybe more than 1 year. I don't even remember, but I've seen it on Instagram just in the ball. I've seen people knit up their socks with it. All those pictures, it is so much prettier in person than any of those pictures. It is so, so pretty. I cannot wait to knit this up. And I just love her yarn. So, true confessions here. I watched the last season of Downton Abbey from England this fall. In England they get it in the fall, and then we over here get it in the winter. So I watched it from over there, except for the last show. The last show they air on Christmas Day. No spoilers, don't worry. Except to say, it's really good. And I can't wait to watch it all over again this winter, knitting my Downton Abbey yarn. So I have that new yarn. And then I also have a new yarn that I bought. I went to the yarn store one day because I probably could have found something to use in my stash, but there wasn't something exactly perfect that I wanted for in there, because I have a gift that I want to knit in the next couple of weeks, and I wanted it to be really decadently soft. And so I went to the yarn shop and I bought this yarn, which is a little not quite as royal as that, but it's a really pretty blue. And this is Shibui Ma'i. It is 70% super baby alpaca, and 30% fine merino wool. It's 175 yards, and the color is called Blueprint. It is so soft. It's got a really like kind of interesting construction. I don't, you probably have seen this in the yarn shop yourself, but it's got sort of a chain construction. So I think it'll be fun to knit up. I'm not exactly sure yet what I'm going to knit. Maybe fingerless mitts or a cowl, or I mean, it could do a hat too, but I think fingerless mitts or a cowl. So I'm not sure, but I do need to knit this up in the next couple of weeks, because so I can gift it to the person. And so I will probably figure out what I want to do and skein it up. I've been dying to skein it up and just like swatch it a little bit just to see what it's like, and then I'll decide what to knit out of it. So I'm looking forward to that. So that is about all that I have for you this week. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me this week. The podcast is on iTunes and YouTube. The YouTube channel is Heartland Knits, 2 words, so you can subscribe either place. There is the Ravelry group, which is Friends of Heartland Knits, and I embed the video in the thread on the group, and then I also embed it on the blog, which is heartlandknits.blogspot.com. So come find me and subscribe so that you get notified when a new episode goes up. And I guess that is all I have for you until I see you next week. From my heart to yours, happy knitting.